Hello, everyone, and welcome to the episode 46 of the Office Hours podcast. In today's episode, we had a chance to talk about online tutorials in video format, what makes them good, what makes them bad, how the overall tutorial scene has changed in recent years as a whole, how I record the tutorials that I currently do for this library that I'm trying to promote. And in the second half, it kind of diverged into, revisiting a familiar topic of how to boost quality of developers in general, and we argued very passionately about, guilds and government regulations and royal patents, and voicing our disagreements in a matter. It ended up being a little bit ranty, but you might enjoy it. So let's let's get on with it.
Early in the week, I saw someone say something that actually online on Twitter. It was about it was actually the way it made me feel. Just to paraphrase what the person said, was about tutorials. So it
Mm-hmm.
made me feel like I feel like nowadays tutorials are not what they used to be. I think the meme was about like, oh, the Indian the Indian YouTubers and like your computer science degree, something like this. But I think this is no longer, or maybe in my opinion, from my perspective, it's no longer true because nowadays people even prefer to read docs. Actually, that was also part of the conversation. Like, do you even like people read docs now, or you prefer to find your knowledge from like videos or stuff like this? So I was thinking like the quality of tutorials these days seem to have dropped very significantly. And I think one of the reasons for this is like nowadays people mostly do it with like they look at other people's like videos and they say the same thing, and it's just like pretty much the same thing. And it's never that like, except you're trying to find like a basic knowledge or something, like something to start with. It has not really felt in a long time like it used to feel like sometimes. I remember like a long time ago, like when you want to learn something about like, in the days of Java, like the guy will probably go into every concept and like you feel like you actually went to class. But nowadays it's just like, oh, quick breakthrough of, someone even posted a video one time. I came across this video one time to learn how to learn JavaScript in 2 weeks or something like this. I guess you could. Like, I guess you could, like, and they really sell these tutorials like this. So for me, I feel like it's mostly like just like business now.
Yeah, I
And
think it is.
if
I think that
yeah,
I think we had the conversation about the whole 2 weeks learn JavaScript in 2 weeks. We already kind of covered that a little bit before, and
yeah,
I think it's just your regular YouTube attention economics, where you have the people who are creating these tutorials, and they get really popular with some niche, and somebody comes in and sees it and it's like, oh, I can just rip off the whole concept, just wholesale, just duplicate everything and put it on my
mm-hmm,
channel and start
yeah,
getting the views, right? And so a lot of people probably became like a mini trend in itself, and a lot of people just started doing it, therefore diluting overall quality by just replicating something that already exists, which is, it's kind of ironic because I'm doing a series of video tutorials for this library that I'm using.
oh
And
yeah,
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 and at least my excuse is that there is no content for it on YouTube in English speaking sector pretty much at all. So I am more or less justified because there's actually nothing there. I'm not just blindly copy pasting somebody else's work. I have to like sit down and come up with everything. And right now, it's probably not very good overall. Like, I think it could be better because this is like the first time I'm trying to do it. So it's like I have to work
that
on
might be
it.
now.
I have
That might be
to,
harsh,
you know,
That might be harsh. That might be harsh judgment on yourself, basically.
no,
So
no, no, no.
I would
It's
say it's
it's
pretty
it's
decent.
it's it's being realistic. Like, if you're doing something for the first time, you can't expect it to be
Mhm.
great, right? But I'm already like in the episodes that I did, I'm already seeing the things that I could improve, and just have a tighter presentation, shorter, cut out a bunch of things that technically shouldn't be part of it because they're covering different subjects or something like that. So it's kind of in the works. Again, because I just had a week of semi-vacation and another week of brutal on-call, like I haven't had any time to work on any of it. Like I have episode 4 recorded, pretty much cut and ready to be released. And now I look at it and I'm like, it's not exactly the kind of quality that I'd like to have, so maybe I should actually reshoot it. Or maybe I'll just release it as is, because I'm planning to kind of reorient that series a little bit and do it a little bit differently. So we'll see. But yeah.
What would you say your style is?
Huh?
Well, sorry to cut you. What would you say your style of tutorial? Like, for example, there are, at the time when I used to consume a lot of tutorials, I still do consume a lot of tutorials, but there was a time I did more. Nowadays, I probably watch other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there was this guy, Mosh Hamidani. There is also a few names. I forgot this
Well,
guy's name
it
now. But
doesn't really matter, I guess.
they have different styles. For example, Mosh it likes to teach like it's like primary school. Like he's going to go like very basic stuff, like then build you up to like and then the other guy that I forgot his name now, it does mostly like quick brush up. How do you say that? There's
Oh,
a way to
yeah,
say
I
it.
see what you mean. Just kind of
Yeah,
refresh your knowledge a little bit.
yeah. So it does like this kind of thing. Like it shouldn't be your first contact, like your first source of
Right.
knowledge. Maybe you did it before and you just want to quick
A
knowledge.
little remediation.
Something like this. What would you say your style of tutorial would be?
Okay. Well, what I'm trying to achieve with this one is more complex, I guess, because there's a whole bunch of different state managers out there, which there's a lot of commonalities between them. And so people fall in the practice of doing what they were doing with whatever they were using before. However, this particular one actually requires you to change the way you think about things to leverage it to its utmost potential. So it's definitely not a tutorial for somebody who doesn't know how to program, or somebody who doesn't know the whole concept of having, state management and business logic. So it's more advanced than that. It is going in a basic steps, and right now my process is effectively just kind of almost capturing my approach in doing it. So like if I were to start using this library, like how would I go about different parts of it? And I guess it needs to be seen what the outcomes would be, because it would be interesting for a person who never used that library to go over that tutorial and then try to build something and see what comes out on the other end, and how much it follows the mental model of how it's supposed to be versus, oh, I'm just doing the same thing that I used to do in Redux just with this library, right? Because that's not the intent here. And,
Okay.
I'm not trying to produce, learn your JavaScript in 21 days type tutorials. There's A, plenty of that, and B, it's just not that interesting. And, for practical applications, I don't know.
How long will it take to learn Effector?
That is a good
2 days.
question.
2 days.
It's not that big of a library. I think the biggest thing is the mental shift into thinking the way it wants you to think about how you abstract your business logic. Like if you don't
Interesting.
grok that part, the API, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like you wouldn't be able to leverage it to its full potential anyway. Like you can't just come into it and just replace use state with create store and call it a day, because that just completely misses the point, right? And so I think maybe right now I actually have to rethink, because I'm kind of going over, hey, this is a store, hey, this is an effect, this is how you connect them together. Maybe the goal should be more, why is there a store and why are you doing things this way? Because like it has to fall into this way of thinking that actually makes it shine. And that's the hard part.
When you said that, it made me remember there's this series that I'm watching right now about the tutorial for Angular.
Mm.
I started like just a few weeks ago. It was one of those essential trainings in on LinkedIn. And before, usually I consume maybe content from Udemy or something like this, but I decided to try one of those classes on LinkedIn, and I noticed like this particular person, he went from the history of Angular to like, how it actually got developed, the reason for it, and it made it feel more, I don't know if the word is correct, wholesome. Like you just feel like you have all the knowledge of it.
Hmm.
And not just like, is that the correct word?
I think holistic, maybe.
Maybe that's the correct word, yeah. It just feel like you have all the history as long as like why and like, so when you do certain things certain way, you understand like this is because of, you know, the history, like this is the purpose of this tool.
Yeah.
You're not just learning it like any other framework or like any other. So I think, yeah, I like this concept, like being able to give like more background and like more
Hmm.
reason why you do certain things certain way
Yeah.
to the tool. I think that would be really
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. I think like one of the big pillars, which I did point it out in the intro, which didn't have any code. Like the first episode was just like why I'm doing it. It's a very short video. And one of the big reasons to do it is, for years and years, the software engineers everywhere have been told, hey, it's really a good idea to separate your business logic from your presentation. Hence, you have your MVC, MVVM, like all of these models of
Hmm. Hmm.
separating UI and logic. And then React comes in and is like, just check it all together. It'll be fine. And everyone's like,
Hmm.
sure, sounds like a great idea. So like all of those years of going through that mental process of like separating these things and like having clear abstractions, they just like chuck it out the window. No one's doing that anymore. We're just gonna put all of our logic in hooks, bolt them down to the React rendering lifecycle, and off you go. And that is a problem. It might not be a problem for everybody, but to me, it's just kind of turning around on all of the things that we've accumulated on the way here of what not to do, and it just basically ignores it. And so the idea is to not do that and have the clean separation. And some people might come in and say, oh, you can just write a hook and put it in a separate file, as if that somehow negates it being completely dependent on the entire effector
Hmm.
rendering lifecycle and a bunch of things that come with it as a consequence. And so maybe that is the thing that needs to be stressed. It's like, and potentially even taking a React application written in hooks in like a classic way, just like a basic React to-do app, and just refactor it and sort of see before and after and see what wins you get from that. Maybe that is a thing. Although I don't want to do a to-do app because that's just
You should do it to do app.
everybody
We
does a
talked about
freaking
it.
to-do app.
I thought we talked about it. You know why you should do it to do app? I tell you why. Because everybody does it. One. Secondly, everyone is doing it because it's an easy way to actually get in to learn anything.
Mm,
Before it used to be it used to be login.
yeah.
Login, like,
I think to-do app is
login
not
process.
necessarily representative of
It
all
has
the
CRUD.
all the capabilities. Yeah.
You can CRUD
Yeah.
with
But
to do app.
okay, anybody can do CRUD. Like you it's hard to see benefits from something from doing just CRUD. Like it's realistically you can't really mess it up that badly. I think that when it comes to more complicated business processes, that's where if you start building them using hooks, it's just like foot gun at every step of the way. You're gonna be blowing your toes off.
You know
You
what?
make a sudden move, bang. Your toes are gone.
You know what? If you won't do a to do app, maybe do a weather app.
I want to do a weather app actually, because I was looking just
Okay.
at my phone. You have multiple cities, you have different days, you have the
Yeah.
charts and graphs. So I was thinking that I'll do the weather app. So that
Yeah,
was
weather
actually
app.
my second backup plan. But yeah, I
Ah,
still need to
nice.
sit down and write scripts for it and actually, make it nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing with tutorials that I enjoy. This is just me just sharing stuff. So some people they have like they make it sound like You know how sometimes you watch some people and then they just feel like they are very just. There's this Max, I think it's Max or something like this. He's on YouTube too. Uh, oh my God. So I even know their names now, like the Mac Million or something like this.
I have no
In
idea. The only tutorials I watch are for DaVinci Resolve, because reading their,
yeah,
like, most of information you can find outside of video tutorials is on their forum, and it's not really digestible. So
yeah.
if I need to do something in Resolve, because it's a program that I haven't used up until like a year ago, and
Mm,
sometimes it's kind of hard to just find it on your own. Like, some things I can figure out, but some things it's like, ooh, I didn't know you could do it that way. But in terms
yeah.
of coding, the last time I did a tutorial, I believe, when I was learning Redux originally, and I did the tutorials from Dan Abramov himself on you effectively building Redux from scratch, like a mini version. And that was really good. But that was probably 10 years ago, and I haven't really done any or watched any coding tutorials since then. I don't know if I should be or shouldn't be, but that's just the way it is.
It depends on how you learn, I guess. Like, some people have the people are able to sit with a book or with the docs or something. For me, I need to have a base and then I can build on that base. So the video tutorials most times serves as the base. So when I'm reading the docs, I know I can really like put
Yeah,
things together and like, build on it. So this
yeah,
is this is I guess it depends.
yeah. A lot of docs suffer from feature discoverability problem, where you have all these APIs, but you can't immediately tell what they're good for and what sort of things you can build and what is appropriate one for different things,
Yeah,
right?
there is
It's
that
like, oh,
for
there's
sure.
these 15 methods that you can use. It's like, okay, but what are they good for in what scenario?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
a lot of the tutorials, like, one of the other reasons why I'm writing the video specifically is because the documentation right now, it describes the API very well, but in terms of actual examples, it's lacking. And actually, today there was a conversation in the channel about how they want to, improve the docs. So there's work being done on it. As I'm saying, sometimes it's easier to see a quick video and be like, oh, that is possible, and that's the things you can use to
exactly.
do it, and then you just
Yeah,
start cooking, on your
yeah,
own.
exactly. So yeah, for me, I think this is one of the reasons. This is depends. Honestly, it depends on each person how you learn. You
Mm-hmm.
consume a lot or not. But what I was gonna say is like I remember like this guy, he has a very soothing voice. Like his voice is so soothing. I don't know if anybody has ever given him that feedback. True, true, real story. He talks very gentle, like he's speaking his voice. It's so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not careful, you probably might sleep on it. And then there are other guys who like do like sarcastic comments or like
Yeah.
make some jokes, like tech jokes,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
a little bit just to keep it a bit more engaging. But I was gonna personally, I like the people who do the jokes because
It's
somehow
it's
it
really it's really hard to, like. I think I also mentioned that before, related to like game streamers, like, to be
yeah
able to play the game at a high level and narrate it and throw in jokes at the same time. It's really hard. It's like,
yeah yeah
some people can sing and some people can play guitar, but singing and playing guitar at the same time, it's way more difficult than either of those two activities. It's kind of the same. And I noticed that when I record, I have sections which are scripted. So I have a piece of text and I have my prompter to display that text and I can read it off, and it's more smooth. But if I'm actually coding something or I got stuck or something, and you start getting the what do I do here? Like, it's really difficult. It's a skill that you also have to develop, and that's why,
yeah
if you
yeah
do like probably 100 tutorials, you get much better at being like a wisecrack, and you can just like code and shit talk at the same time. Or
yeah
some people just record voiceovers. I'm watching this chat since I'm on like the cinema gear bend. I started watching this channel called Gerald Undone. He's a Canadian guy who's like doing studio reviews and gear and tech, like photo cameras, video, cinema, all that kind of stuff. And he was visiting a YouTuber. He does like studio reviews. He like comes to their studios and basically like shows everybody how they film their channel. So he went for this guy who's doing custom furniture builds. And this guy basically just records voiceover over the footage that he filmed prior to. And he said that he takes like some insane amount of takes for like some phrase. It's like, 400 takes to record that little phrase, you know? So he's like very
Yeah,
on
it's
point.
difficult.
It is difficult, you know? And
I can imagine it's
yeah.
difficult.
Like
Honestly.
I come in and I write a script, I record it, I cut it barely, and I publish it. And these guys like spend weeks and weeks just polishing to it to a higher quality, and that's why they have 5 million subscribers and I have 72. So it's all clear, you know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. To be honest, I was just talking about like the things I enjoy about from tutorials. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's this guy, Code Academy or something like
Mm-hmm.
this. He makes it look like a game. Like so, I think he does this. He used to. I don't know if he does it anymore. He used to do like let's code together Saturdays in the morning. So it's like a live stream, and everyone is there in the chat. And then sometimes he hits a snag, and he makes it look funny, but you can see he doesn't feel that stressful. I guess, like you said, it gets to a point. Because now I'm thinking about it myself, like, sometimes you do like presentation. This is not even on YouTube. You do like presentations to your team. And yeah, it could get a bit nervy sometimes. So I can imagine like, yeah, maybe after like a few hundred takes, like yeah,
Yeah,
then you
yeah,
feel bad about it.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I just used to enjoy things like this. But anyway, I feel like we digressed a lot from what we're actually talking about. We were actually talking about, I mean, why tutorials in general
Mm-hmm.
have become of less quality, and
Yeah.
what is that like in the grand scheme of things, right? Especially when it comes to people who prefer to learn from videos than to actually, because sometimes you could read docs and get like a lot of information from it depending on the doc, but sometimes these docs are not even like relatable. Sometimes like they seem a bit complex and not easy to follow. So it's easier to either read a book
Mm-hmm.
or watch a video sometimes. But yeah, if we can no longer rely on these videos, what happens to these people who live like this?
I think it's not the problem. You can't just say we can't rely on these videos because I think it's it's just the oversaturation of the market with lesser quality goods. There's probably still people out there who do very good product, right? In terms of tutorials, in terms of quality, and people just have to find them. They just have to sort through. And the problem is that if you're a beginner, it's really hard to tell what's good and what's not so good.
This is
Like
true.
you can look at the mediocre thing and a great thing, and if you see the mediocre one first, you'd be like, oh well, that gives me the kind of gives me the information that I need. It's just that the great one probably could have explained it better with more detail in less time and it would stuck with you more or something. I don't know. Again, maybe my goal, if I want to see, the thing is that like I'm not trying to make this my job. This is still for fun. And as soon as I start putting all this extra effort in, it switches the dynamic quite a bit.
Yeah,
And I was gonna say like maybe I should go and like watch a bunch of tutorials and see what common features the good ones have and try to incorporate that. Maybe that's still a good idea because
I think it is.
ultimately my goal is to convey the information that I want to convey, right? It's not to have a video, it's to have something that I can point to people. Like if somebody joins my team and they have no idea, I can be like, just watch the series and it'll be all clear for you. So I have kind of a selfish reason to be doing it in a sense. But yeah, it's hard to understand what's good information and what's not so good information. But that's just true over the internet in general. Like if you're not an expert in some domain, how can you begin to learn what is good and what is not, except for getting 10 different viewpoints and then amalgamating some representation that actually makes sense and like kind of like cutting off all the stuff that doesn't really fit the picture. But nobody has time for that.
But this is the struggle actually, because nowadays you see some people say something like, "Oh, learn Angular." For example, learn Angular complete guide
Yeah.
to Angular. And then they go 38 hours or they go 42 hours. Everything you need to know about Angular programming or whatever they say. And then you start going into it. I mean, if you see this, you probably feel like, yes, you're going to learn everything about Angular. But then you go into it, and the first chapter is the same as the second chapter. You spend the whole like 1 hour just talking about like what, you know, basic component or something like this. You're not even going into stuff like this. So, like you said in the beginning, you don't even know what is good or not.
Yeah.
But the issue with this now is that it reduces like interest at some point. I mean, except you really have the need to.
Good.
Sometimes.
Good. Let it reduce interest. I think the market is oversaturated as it is.
Oh, good.
So if we have additional filters in a path, I'm going to be gatekeeping really hard because I was just watching this video recently that says that 100,000 computer science grads get pumped out in North America every year. Like, and we talked about it before. It's like, can the market sustain them at that rate? Is the quality of all of these grads going to be good? Like, I want for people to come in who can do good work right away, right? And so I don't know, I'm still operating from a point of view that you have to have the desire, you have to be a nerd to be a good developer. I'm not saying that people can't become developers, but I'm saying like if you want to be a really good developer, you kind of have to live this thing all the time. And so if some shitty tutorial on the internet says, "Oh, I don't want to do this anymore," maybe it wasn't for you. That's fine. You can do carpentry or beekeeping or enjoy yourself some other ways.
You know what? Basically, you just open a very big jar. I'm surprised that you're trying to gatekeep the industry now, because I mean, I wonder whatever happened, because you used to be the one to open the gate. Because the other time I was saying like, yeah, we should have a way to how do you say that? How do you say that? Give everybody like a certificate. Like, how do you say that? Regulate the industry.
Yeah.
I was suggesting that we regulate.
No. I'm not for regulating the industry. That's not my point. My point is that a lot of people get attracted into it with the promise of riches, high salaries, cushy jobs, like fancy offices with yoga and matcha lattes and all of this stuff. But that's not what it's about. And it, unfortunately, it's, like 20 years ago, everybody wanted to be a lawyer or a doctor. Nobody wants to be a car mechanic. And now we're like woefully out of car mechanics and plumbers and all that good stuff, right? I'm saying that anyone can be taught to do this, I think, to a very varying degree of competence. However, to become really good at it, you really need to want it. And if you only want it not because of the love of tech and all these other things, I don't know. I don't know if it like you can get into the industry, but I don't know if you're gonna enjoy it as much either. So it's not even gatekeeping as saying you can't do it. That's not what I'm saying. It's more of you can probably do something that you'll enjoy more. And that would make my life easier too, because now I have, higher quality of pool of people to select from. Because I'm kind of, changing my thinking about these things a little bit, because at some point in time, shit needs to get done. And I'm all for teaching people who want to learn, but when that happens also on the job, at some point that just gets quite frustrating. It's like some of these things you should know before you come here. And
Yeah, but so now how do you feel about bootcamps? Learn to be a developer in 3 months.
I guess so. The bootcamps, they're the consequence of the same phenomenon. Like the reason why the boot camps sprang up is because during COVID, there was this insane demand. And even prior to COVID, but during COVID especially, like this fellow in a video that I was watching was showing the graph. Oh, I mean, I think it was Theo probably. And it's just like demand for, or like the hiring, and it just goes like during COVID, it just like goes like super, like just hockey sticks. And then immediately like hockey sticks another direction. But that impulse that it created, it's like there's now bajillion courses and boot camps and all this and that because everybody suddenly wants to go in IT. Because at the time, everybody was hiring like crazy in IT. And, you know, you can get a job that pays you $200K a year for basically doing fuck all. Why wouldn't you want to apply for that? Right? And so that brings the people who don't care about tech. They're not nerds in the best sense of the way. They don't like geek out over frameworks and technologies. They just want their cushy job with high salary. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's an absolutely natural human impulse. I'm just saying that now those of us who actually are into this thing, you know, now we have to deal with all of that. And I prefer not dealing with that because it just takes so much energy. It's so annoying.
Interesting. That's a very interesting point of view. Because, yeah, I can see it. But,
And that also,
but
like, in a selfish way, that also dilutes my shares. Like, if I'm competing with 10,000 developers, my salary floor can be here. But if I'm competing with 10 million developers, my salary floor is like on the floor. Because there's always going to be a guy who's willing to do it for cheaper and whatever. And like in a purely selfish way of things, I mean, it's a competing desires. On one hand, I'm very happy teaching people the skills. I'm just hoping that they really enjoy learning those skills and they're not there because they've been promised, you know, oh, you can sit on your ass and make $100K a year. Like, I don't want that.
this is where I'm coming from, yeah? This is my own point of view. Let me know what you think, yeah? I think in tech, the more people who come into the industry is the more jobs that we can actually have. You know why? Because I think tech is more like what we do, especially our own area of the industry. Because I feel like for us, it's like creating something. And the more people that you have to create things, is the more things you can create. And maybe it is going to help to spark up more ideas and have more ideas. I know, I don't know. I guess like
I think I see
just
your point, and the
okay.
way that I'd like to counter it, it's like when the iPhone just came out, it did not even have an app store. It had like 15 apps that was pre-installed on a phone, and that was it. Like you could not put new
Mhm,
apps on a phone. And
mhm,
then they opened up an app store, and first rollout they had was very selective. They picked like, I don't know, a couple of thousand of people to build apps for the iPhone to showcase the ecosystem and how magical it can be, right? Because I mean, apps
mhm.
for devices were not a new thing. Like I had a Palm Pilot and you can download and install apps on it, no problem. It's just it was a much more niche thing. So there weren't that many apps. And I mean, in that phase, I was just obsessed over installing as many apps as I can just because I could, right? And like some of them were good, but some of them were not so good. And so we had this period of time where people were kind of given access to something they never had before, and they really. I can bring another analogy right after it to kind of make my point further, but like people were
Mhm.
building really high quality apps of a lot of them for the iPhone. And then when they opened it up for everybody, the floodgates opened and the amount of just purely garbage apps on the App Store is infinite. There's like this many good apps and this many garbage apps. And like same thing happened when Uber first launched. Remember how it was when Uber first launched? The driver will open the door for you. He would wear gloves. He would have like water and snacks and all of these things in his car. And he'd be like so happy that you're taking an Uber with him.
Yeah,
And then they opened
yeah.
it up for everybody. And it's like, your Uber's here. If you don't like it, get the hell out of here, right? Like the quality just not the quality overall, but from where it was. Like, it was like flying first class versus flying coach. Just because it got opened up to everybody, so that the quality obviously tanked. And I think this is kind of the same thing. When you have so many
True.
applicants in the market, the overall
Yeah,
level of
that's a good
quality
point.
is not going to be as high. And so
Yeah.
I agree that like the more people you have, the more ideas you could produce. But that also means that you're also producing way more bad ideas and just shittier things overall. So it becomes harder
Yeah,
to find things that are actually really good.
I agree in this case. Like I think yeah, this is true. I was just trying to find the positive side of it because it is happening anyway. For example, like I guess in my own case, what I would really like is to have a regulation, like a regulatory body. Sorry about
Cardinal sin of podcasting, leaving your phone turned on.
that.
That's a
Sorry.
that's a first. Well, do we need that many developers overall? I mean, Twitter fired 75% of them and they're still doing the thing they're doing, so they didn't need all of those people apparently. So out of
Yeah.
100,000 people, if we just do a completely bizarre thing and just apply that logic, like out of those 100,000 people who come out of the university in computer science degrees every year, maybe 75,000 of them should not have been like, even if they weren't there, would have not changed the market all that much if we were just being very lean.
This is true, but you see, what I was going to say is that
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to come to a point where we actually like regulate like developers in different industry with a standard. If we do this, then we don't have to, it's not open to everybody. It's like mm, it could be like we can have how do you say we can have a union, I'm not
You're
even saying
basically
union
saying
anymore.
you want a guild. But free market destroyed guilds, it just outcompeted guilds. So again, I'm not saying that there should be limits artificially on it. Ultimately, the market will decide and say we don't need that many developers. Like same thing that happened with like all the lawyers. It's like, yeah, we just don't need like it's a glamorous lifestyle with very high salaries. We just don't need that many of you guys. And eventually people started picking different majors and they all went in computer science. And when new thing comes in, a bunch of them will go into this new thing that promises luxury and riches. But,
Cybersecurity.
if you create a guild,
Mhm.
I mean, we did that in like 1300s and throughout, like Venice, all of that sort of stuff. If it was a workable model economically, they would have still be around. And they are, in some degree, they are still around. But they are around because of government regulation and enforcement, not because everyone's like, oh yeah, having that is such a great idea. Like maybe for some things it makes sense. Like if you have an electrician that wires your house poorly and it burns your house down, you don't want that. And I guess in like a libertarian political philosophy, you would sue him for damages if you manage to survive, and he be out of business, and he will be filtered out of the market by all the bad work he's been doing, and most people remaining would be the ones doing good work, and it just naturally balances itself out. But I think the risk there is it's gonna, as all of those things, is gonna balance itself out with casualties, and we don't like casualties, so that's why we sort of step in ahead of time and say, we're just not gonna let you do that. But from a purely market perspective, I don't think that that's the best model, and I think that that's why free market broadly wins. And I hope that that beeping thing outside my window doesn't get through into the soundtrack.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Well, honestly, we'll see. Nowadays the market, I think right now the market is regulating itself. There's the issue like we had like a lot of people coming to the industry during COVID, but we'll see. I still think we need to have a regulatory body according to industry. I'm convinced. Honestly, I am. And it makes sense in my head. And I know every time I tell you, you don't. Not like you don't
I don't
agree,
know.
you just have a different way to say
Sounds like a communist propaganda to me.
it. Well, I think we should because, like you said, like it's if we have a regulatory whatever, a standard, you know, then we can always like assess everybody based on this standard. So at least like you have a very base knowledge, like you that you're expected to have as a as an engineer or like a developer of a certain level. And therefore, this turns out to improve or increase the quality of our
Yeah.
products.
It'll
And
it'll increase. I don't know if it'll increase the quality necessarily.
I'm getting somewhere. One second. Yeah,
Okay. Sure.
so it
Sorry.
increases the quality, and because right now the way we are setting this standard is through interviews. Some people, each company now tries to have a certain technical interview or something at a certain level to gauge a certain candidate, but sometimes it's getting almost um easier to technical interviews are not what it used to be. Like right now, at worst, you're gonna have a whiteboard. That's the worst case scenario. And if you've been practicing lead code for like what? Yeah, you've
But
been
yeah,
grinding lead
that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna just parry it with your own example. Everybody and their dog is doing lead code. Do you
exactly.
get
And
any
that
better
doesn't make
qualified candidates because of that? The
this
lead
does not
code
make
is
like
the filter that your certification authority would impose. That's the type of thing, right? You have to pass, I don't know, 300 levels of lead code. Does that mean that this person is going to be a good developer? No, it does not.
this is not a good plan
No, but
when it comes to like
that's how guilds work, right?
no.
Yeah.
This is not it's like what? You cannot just wake up tomorrow and become a lawyer. You have to pass a bar exam. You have to pass like there are some
Okay, so
exams.
here's the thing though. If you decide to go, I mean, okay,
You
in
don't become a
theory,
lawyer from
you can,
watching YouTube videos.
huh?
You don't become a lawyer from watching YouTube videos.
Why
You don't
not?
become a lawyer just
Acquire,
by
acquiring
no.
acquiring knowledge is acquiring knowledge regardless of the source. You watch tutorials on YouTube to acquire
Vasily,
knowledge.
with
Hold on,
you
but
let a
let me finish.
YouTube lawyer
Let me
defend
finish.
you in court.
Let me finish my point. You can represent yourself in court. At least in the United States, you can. The problem is not your lack of degree, but lack of knowledge of the procedure. So you're just gonna get destroyed on some technicality and procedural bullshit, and you're gonna lose. But if you know how to do it and you never went to university, it's again, it's not physically preventing you from doing it. It's like by decree you can't. But if you read all of the same books that they read at Ivy League school, and you debate the same people, who's to say that your education in any way worse?
It's illegal. This is what I'm saying. Because have you seen Suits? Let's just even make it like
Yes,
a.
I have seen Suits. I don't think it's
illegal.
representative.
If it's illegal, it's not because you know the law in and out that makes you a lawyer. You still have to pass the bar
But
exam.
every time you watch Suits, you say, how come this guy is illegal? He can clearly do the job. The entire, at least the first season, you watch it's like, this guy can clearly do the job. Why can't they just let him do the job?
Would you let him do the job, Vasily? This is illegal. If you know that he's not qualified to
No.
do the job,
One does not
and you
follow
hire
from
him,
the other. One does not follow from the other. He can do the job, but it's illegal for him to do so, right?
yeah, he can know how to do it.
What
I
do you
could
mean
know how to.
if he can do it, but he doesn't have a piece of paper, he still can do it. The piece of paper is the thing that's preventing him from doing it
And this is
legally.
what this there is regulation. You know, this is regulation.
But
If
he can do
anybody
the
can,
job. He can do the job.
you see, this is the 1% of the people that can actually do the job. So, for example, someone wakes up tomorrow and like says, "Oh yeah, I have 20 projects on my Git account. I've been building projects since like what 4 years ago, and I've watched like what 10,
But
10
if he's a
100
shitty
hours
lawyer
of
and he loses all of his cases, he's not going to get hired by anyone. So how is that a problem?
he, what I'm saying is not. I'm not. measuring competence. Everyone has better talents in terms of like abilities. We all have different abilities. This guy we're talking about was just like the 1% or like 2% of anybody, the rest of us in the world. There are people with like certain level of abilities and they can actually like teach themselves to be better than anyone else. This is possible. However, we need to have a certain level of
Okay,
standard
but answer me
that is
this.
general.
Out of all lawyers practicing today, are they all
Mhm.
equally good? Or are there some crappy ones that manage to pass the bar, but they're still shit lawyers that barely win anything?
But they know things
What?
because they pass the bar. You pass the bar, at least you know the basic enough, enough to pass the bar.
Yeah, I mean,
And
we bringing it back to the conversation that we already had, and I'm stopping enjoying it right now, to be honest with you. But I have a degree from BCIT from 10 years ago or
no,
20 years
this is
ago,
different.
and I learned Pascal. So I can prove to you that I have learned Pascal because I have a piece of paper that says so. Does that in any way impact my current market prospects in the job market? No, absolutely not. So again, I don't really see the point. And I don't know. We already had that conversation like 3 times.
No, we
So
did. We
yeah.
did. You know what? We're not going to have the conversation again. It's just like we already did. What I'm just saying, it's okay if you don't agree with me. This is okay. Like I'm fine. I'm fine with it. I will take it. This is my opinion. Yeah,
Yeah.
my personal one. Maybe tomorrow I become president somewhere and I have this much influence. This is you vote for me. This
Yes,
is what you
yes.
vote.
You know, be careful of what you wish for, as they say. You know, they do say it for a reason.
You know what? I would like to have a regulation, like a standard for developers and like in the software. There should be a standard, and the reason for this is like we want to have people in certain industry to actually have a certain this we want the reason is just to improve quality.
Let me
It's not
let
to
me let me
gatekeep
ask you
anything.
another question. When you get people on your team, who is best positioned to make the selection for people on your team? Your team or some other team? Like, if all of the interviewing for your team was done by some team 3 departments over and you just had to take whatever they give you, would that be okay?
It's not because you went to medical school that you're not going to go through an interview. You could pass your medical exam, but you're still going to get an interview to get a job as a doctor.
But if the interview ultimately decides whether or not you get the job, what is the point of the previous step? Like, you know, we get candidates from a placement agency, right? Because I work for a big company. They don't just like there's channels. You have to go through channels. So if you're getting contractors, they come from placement agency, which in theory should have them pre-vetted. Like they should do the work of filtering them out by skill and all of that stuff. But that's clearly a case of misaligned incentives because if they place somebody, they get paid. So their incentive is to place somebody regardless. And same thing with university. They get paid for people studying there, and their goal is to have as many of them pass through their doors as possible. They don't have an incentive of providing the best quality for me. They have an incentive of making most money for them. And those incentives are misaligned, and I'm saying that it's
Do you see where the
backfiring.
problem is? This is the problem we're solving. So this is
Yeah, get rid
exactly
of
the
those
problem.
guys, and the problem
No,
will
no, this is
disappear.
exactly this is the problem we're solving because going to school, you could go to school and study biology or like you could study. This does not make you. This is not enough to become a doctor.
Yeah, it is.
Hence the
It
reason why.
absolutely is.
Basically, you will not just
I'm
go
not
and
saying
make
that you
someone a
read
doctor because they
five
graduated biology
minutes of
class.
some biology book. I'm saying that all of the information that they have there is available everywhere. They're not the only ones with the secret knowledge. Again, with the
So
guilds. The only
I'm gonna
reason you have a
challenge you
guild is
then.
because they have a secret knowledge. All knowledge is
Do you know
public
what?
now. You can learn
Do you know
everything you
what?
want.
I'm gonna challenge you now. Within the next 3 to 4 years, you know what? Because it's you, I know you can do it faster. In the next 2 years, I challenge you to read everything you can about biology, and you should become a doctor in Canada
Why? That's not my goal.
because you could. No, this is a challenge. It's not your goal, I know, but it's just because you can become a doctor if you want,
But
just by learning biology.
But okay, no, that's a. I don't think that's the correctly stated thing because if I had an option of going to a university to learn something or not going to university to learn something, that would be one thing. Like, I have no desire to do that. Like, if I were facing a choice of going to university to learn programming or not going to university to learn programming, I would have probably said I probably don't need to go to university to learn programming. I can learn all of those things. All of that information is available to me. So I don't think that challenge is correct, unfortunately, Mo. I'm sorry.
No, it is exactly what I'm saying. It's because it's not sufficient to just go on YouTube or like anywhere you want to at the library and consume all the knowledge about biology and then become a doctor.
I don't think that.
I don't.
I still
No,
believe
Vasily,
on a
this is it.
fundamental level that you are incorrect about this.
No.
You're
no,
conflating cause and effect here.
This is exactly what I'm saying. If you cannot just go and say because you could learn everything about biology on your own and become a doctor.
Yeah, you can. You can. You absolutely can.
Exactly. But this would not make you a doctor.
Yeah, it would. If you have all of the knowledge of the doctor, you're a doctor. The only way that your model works if the university has some secret sauce that is only available through them. And I mean, in fact, they do. It's called a diploma. That's the only secret sauce they have. Everything beyond that, you can learn yourself. That is entirely my point. There is no magical secret knowledge
I don't agree with.
they implant in your head.
This is the point. I don't, because it's not because you know everything about law
It is
that you become a lawyer.
exactly because you know everything to know about the law. How did people do
exam.
anything before some bureaucracy sprung up and decided to seek rent as a middleman in the process? How did people do anything? How did civilization occur? Like,
it's 2024. You can't do this anymore. This might be a thing.
Again,
like
it's the consequence. It's not the reason. You could have been doing all of it, but people put artificial barriers in the way, sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for bad. Fundamentally, knowing the thing and being able to do the thing is being able to do the thing. And no matter if I have a stamp anywhere on my body that says I'm allowed to. That's the only difference, is somebody tells you you're allowed to, or being able to and being allowed to are two very different things. And you're discussing it from a point of being allowed to, and I'm discussing it from a point of being able to. And I'm saying that there's no secret knowledge. You can learn everything on your own. The only difference is they stamp you with something that says you're allowed to, and that's the only thing you pay $100,000 a year for. Literally.
This is life, Vasily. There is
I'm not arguing against it. I'm just saying that it's unnecessary. It's a rent-seeking bureaucracy. It's a parasitic form of rent-seeking where they just sit in the middle. It's like a troll toll. You know, you want to cross the bridge and there's a guy collecting money. And he didn't even build the bridge. He's just sitting there collecting money from you.
This is life, Vasily. You pay. You pay for what you. At the end of the price you are paying is to allow you to do what you want. If you want to become a doctor, you will go to medical school. You're not gonna sit at home and watch videos.
Yeah, but again, that's creating perverse incentives for them, because they legalize themselves into a position where they're the only game in town. They're in fact a monopoly, and monopolies are never good. They're not good for competition. And if they're saying, like, as you said, if you want to become a doctor, you have to go through those guys. Does that seem like a good system to you? They can arbitrarily make decisions about people's lives, and you're saying it's a good system? No.
It is a good system because then at least I know that I can, this is my life. As a doctor, my life is important. The doctor I see and seek, I hope they have enough knowledge to be able to.
But they went through the university. According to you, of course they have enough knowledge. They went through a university. So why do you have to hope?
Do you understand?
No, I don't. You're saying I hope they have enough knowledge, but according to you, if they
went through. The doctor that went through university, I'm still doubting of his competence.
Which means that the fact that he went through university is completely irrelevant. If you still doubt him, it's irrelevant.
Now talk less of a doctor who didn't even go to university. I'm afraid of the one that went to university that got a degree. And now you're asking me to trust my life in the hand of the one who did not even go to university. What am I doing with my life?
Okay, if you're ever stuck on a desert island with somebody and I don't know, a crocodile bites half your leg off, and you're like, my guy, I will not let you tie in a tourniquet because you didn't go to university to become a medical doctor. I just don't trust you enough.
At that point, that's desperation.
Well,
This is desperation.
everything in life is desperation.
I don't even need a doctor at that point. If you are there, I'll let you tie the tourniquet.
But I didn't go to university. That's just not gonna work.
But this is the thing. I think you understand what I'm saying. But I see your point too, because in this case, with your philosophy, I think it will make everything open for everybody. Everybody can do anything.
Yeah, and the market will decide the bad actors. Ideally, again, I'm talking from like a very abstract sort of libertarian perception of these things. Of course, they don't always apply cleanly on top of our world. It's more of a platonic ideal, is that the market should decide, and bad actors are not going to get hired because they suck at their job, and good ones will because they're good at their job. And the only thing why we have that system is, again, because of those casualties. Like, we want to reduce those casualties, so we put these artificial barriers in place. But the problem is that as soon as you put any kind of bureaucracy in place, the goal of any bureaucracy is to reproduce itself and acquire as much power and influence as possible. Original goals of the organization are not even remotely considered. Like, take a look at Greenpeace or something. They used to be for environment and all these other things and stop killing whales. Now it's like this massive behemoth with like billions of dollars of funding. And like, do they care about the whales? I don't think so. They care about propagating their machine. And any bureaucracy does this. Any university, like, why are they so expensive? Because they can. So it's just, as soon as you put this in place, it immediately starts this cancerous growth process and degeneration at the same time. And 10 years down the line, it's just going to turn to complete shit. And I'm just trying to prevent that by saying, like, let's not do that in the first place.
I agree. You know what? I'm not speaking. When I say regulations, I'm not asking for like a university degree. I don't think this is the end of the regulation. Like, I think there should be, I don't know. But I don't think this is the end. Like, I don't know. I'm not.
But like, if you go to a massage therapist, they all had to go through their own accreditation. Maybe there was like 2 cases in 10 million where they, I don't know, tweaked somebody too hard and like dislocated their joint or something, and a person ended up injured. But for the remaining 9,900,000 whatever 99 people, like, that's never been a consideration. And now they have to go through like a year of training and paying all these dues and have to belong for some professional organization that tells them how to do, what to do, how to think, what to think. Like, do you want to be, tied down to this?
If we're going in this domain, if you bring in this domain to the table, I would say we even need even stricter regulations in that particular industry. Because what's the name of those ones who pull your bone on YouTube? Like the ones who do the lumbar cracking. I forgot.
Oh, the chiropractors.
Chiropractors, yeah, these guys.
Yeah.
Do you know how many accidents they have in a year?
Yeah, that's why I don't go to them, because I don't believe in what they do. Like, I don't need a regulatory body to tell me something. And they're like, people should be more discerning. That's the other thing too, right? Because it removes agency from people. They can now defer to the authority and say it'll be fine without doing like any research. Like, there's pros and cons to it, but broadly, I'm more against it rather than I'm for. In some extreme cases, I'm for it, but regulating programming, that's crazy talk. And again, we talked about it. It's already regulated where it needs to be regulated. I don't even understand how we ended up here. I'm not enjoying it here. I don't even honestly know if I should publish this, because this is just ranting for 40 minutes. It's a waste of time.
I feel like I stressed a lot today. Anyway, I didn't intend to. I was just sharing my opinion and what I really believe in. And maybe next year I might have a different way of thinking that might be different.
Go
But
join
I
go
mean,
join a regulated industry and talk to me in a year.
you know what? Maybe my mind will change, but I really believe in what I'm saying. And I think so because, like you said earlier, we have many developers who build like applications in the App Store. Shitty applications. Shitty applications. How do you think it got there? Because they open it for everybody.
Yeah.
Because nowadays, anybody and their uncle can become a developer because you probably have like 2 projects or 3 projects in your GitHub account, and because you think like you know how to write a few lines of JavaScript, and now you feel like, oh yeah, you could do it. And of course, it's easy to hire people like this because it's cheap. You don't pay them as high
Yeah.
as you will pay people who actually probably have like the formal education to it, because it's available. You
But
can hire someone from bootcamp and pay them like 50% of what you would pay a
yeah,
university
you get
graduate.
shittier quality, but you get what you pay for.
Exactly. And now everybody is done. And you, Vasily, you get to complain that, oh, we
No,
have like all the bad people, all the people who are not putting enough effort and you're not giving themselves. How do you give yourself to it if you got in anyway? The door is opened.
but here's the thing. In the example of the App Store, Apple is pretty happy sitting on top of it, collecting their 30% of everything that goes through their door. They have absolutely zero incentive of increasing quality in any way. If they were there as an arbiter of all the good things that's supposed to go in the App Store, they could. They're the only mean, at least recently there's been some changes in EU for alternative app stores for iPhone, but anyway, that's besides the point. They're the only ones who can dictate the level of quality that they find acceptable. And they could have easily said, you know what, your app is garbage, it's not going in the App Store. But because they collect 30% of everything that's bought and sold on it, they just like, we're making money hand over fist, why would we bother maintaining quality? And so any of those organizations that follow that same model are going to end up in the exact same situation. They'll be like, we're making so much money, we don't have to give a shit about quality, we only care about the volume. It's right there in front of you already. Like, you can just look at it and be like, yep, that's how it is. And that's how this other thing is going to be too, because incentives are aligned that way and you can't argue with economics. So that's kind of proves my point, I think.
I think you're on my point right now. I think you're on my point. But I think we can both agree to this. Of course, it's the demand that leads to the reduction in quality, because
Not the demand, the supply. I think there's
the
still demand
supply.
for high quality. But there's also
Yeah,
demand,
this,
like, that's the thing too, is it not everybody demands high quality all the time. People settle for lower quality things if they end up paying cheaper for them, and that's fine.
you no, Vasily, you're not gonna argue for lower quality right now. Are you?
I'm not
You're about to.
I'm arguing for the sweet spot between the quality and cost, which again we talked about already previously. Like, I don't understand why we're doing this.
You
I
know
already
what?
said everything
No,
I had to say on a subject. Why do I have to repeat myself?
no. You know what? Like, there is the sweet spot, of course. At the end of the day, everyone is not the same. We cannot have equal level of experience. We cannot have equal level of expertise.
Yeah.
It's not possible. But in certain situations where like you can see like the basic level of computer science is missing, this is what I'm saying. There is, and you mentioned it earlier.
But it's just a
You said
market
when you have,
condition. It's a market condition. It's not the normal state of things. It's just a bunch of people got dumped into it very quickly by any means possible, and the quality suffers in the short term.
and you mentioned, you brought it up exactly.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
brought it up earlier.
But I'm not
when
saying
you
that the
said like,
fix to it is government regulation. That's not what I'm
I'm not.
saying.
I don't know how it's going to get regulated. I'm just saying we need to have like a base, like at least a base.
I think we should just give it 5 years and it'll fix itself. The people who couldn't stick in IT will not be in IT, and it'll even out. We don't need to
Maybe,
create an
I don't know.
entirely new bureaucracy for it. And
We'll see.
in terms of appealing for lower quality, you know, you can go study computer science at MIT for however many 50K a year, or you can go study it at a community college for 10K a year and read exactly the same books.
It's the same book.
Yeah. So what are you
No,
paying
this
for?
is
You're paying for the brand. The
No,
quality,
there's
the quality is going to be like, people perceive the quality based on cost as well, but who's to say? So the sweet spot is real, you have to aim for it. Not
um there is a different view to that. Do we have more time? I feel like there is a different view to that. we because the MIT graduate and the community college graduate can actually go head to head. This depends on individuals as well. It's not about like the university that you go to. The reason why you're going to the university is to actually gain knowledge. But you could go to MIT and not gain anything
Yeah,
because
you
the
could go
knowledge.
to YouTube and gain all that same knowledge. That's what I've been saying for the last hour.
You could. I'm not saying you can't. Again, I mentioned earlier we have different people. However, some at least you don't game the interview process. You don't game because nowadays you can game. It's gameable. You can game the interview process and get the job. And now at the job, you don't really know what you're gonna do. And then
But that's a
you
problem
can
of
put
interview process, not of government regulation of the entire industry. Again, why do you have to bring out the
okay.
nuclear option to fix a tiny triviality?
You know what, basically, this is my opinion, and I'm keeping my opinion.
Okay. It's just like, it's like that flex tape meme. It's just like, any kind of problem, government regulation, like, I don't
I'm
subscribe to
not
that
saying
model.
it's not specific. It doesn't have to be like a. I think right now there are some bodies who are actually doing some of these things. I think I probably came across maybe Tukal or Tupal, Toptal or something like this.
Top tell.
They actually do the pre-interview, like they have like people in their database, like developers, engineers, like in their database,
Yeah.
and then they recommend them to big companies. I don't know. There are there are actually some people who are doing this now. And maybe, I don't know, maybe OBCD also do the same thing. I don't
I
know.
have no idea.
But there are actually some companies who are doing this now. Like they pre-interview you before they actually get you
But
to the
again, they have a
actual.
different incentive. They have an incentive of placing you that goes against your incentive of hiring the most qualified candidate possible.
At that
So
point.
they'll teach their candidates to game the interview for you, like,
But
because that will get
the
them the
thing
most
is,
return, right?
see, my point is, if we have a base of knowledge, base knowledge for everyone, and then we can worry about, people knowing more or expecting people to know more later. It's different from like when someone comes to the job and then you have to start from how to install an application with this person. You've not even gotten to the part where you're talking about developing an application. You know, like basic stuff. Like at least like have the basic knowledge because we, we I'm not honestly. This is just my opinion. And next year maybe it may be different. I might be in an environment where I learn something different and I find a different solution to a problem I'm thinking about. It could do. But right now I'm keeping this opinion and I believe it as gospel that it will solve a lot of problems
Yeah,
if we
because
have
you
like
never
at
been
least.
subject to it yourself.
So you mean like a society? What's that? Socialist?
No, I
Socialism?
mean, I'm not saying even in that way, but like, you can hold these opinions. There's actually a specific term for this. It's called a luxury belief. You believe that you can rewire the society because there's not going to be a consequence for you. Like, you already have your degree. Like, even if you implement all of this, it's not going to affect you in any way, but it's going to affect a whole bunch of other people. And even if it affects them negatively, because it doesn't affect you, you're free to still remain believing these things because you don't have any skin in the game in this case.
Um, it's not about degree because right now I think
Okay, if
from
tomorrow they said, you know what, Mo, in order to keep your job, you have to requalify, you have to go through these rigorous tests, how happy would you be then? And if you fail, you're out forever, out of the industry. Or not forever, but for however many years, until you prove again that you can do it. Like, would that be a good outcome for you personally?
what do I gain from proving myself? Do I gain more
you
salary?
you get to keep your job.
I don't know. I don't think this is a realistic way that is going to happen. I think what is going to happen will be mostly like if you are coming into the entry level industry right now.
So you're
That would
you're
be
doing
more
the thing where
realistic.
you climbed up a ladder and now you're pulling the ladder behind you to
I'm
prevent
not
other
pulling the
people from
rope.
going. Yeah, you are.
Honestly,
Because
I'm
like
not
I'm
pulling
not
the rope.
subject to it, but everybody after me is.
If I have, you see, if I have to do it, I feel like right now I can tell you that I have gone through um like the first stage of whatever it is. Like people who work right now
Mm-hmm.
already have a certain level of experience, and if there comes to like regulations, I think this is better than for us to have. If we are actually going to get to a point in the world where we can actually trust more in our text, I feel like we need to it shouldn't be open source. Like I think this should not be like anybody and their uncle can just pick up a computer. I mean, either either we let this happen and anybody and everybody can just do it, or we actually like regulate it
All
and
right.
make sure like the
You,
quality that we
you
have is
you're
good.
not allowed to use any open source software anymore.
Okay, I don't know if I use a lot.
You probably use way more than you even comprehend how much open source software that you currently use. Like if you have an Android phone, you're using open source software right
Do you
now,
see?
so like throw it away.
You know what? This can actually be another thing. Maybe we can this will allow more people to actually have like, because what I'm saying is for people who want to get hired, but it doesn't affect anyone else who wants to actually do something on their own. You could learn whatever
So
and
like okay, now you just invented parallel gray economy where people without certifications are going to be doing jobs cash in hand like a lot of electricians and plumbers currently do, creating like a gray market or a black market. Like what is that going to solve? Like now you just created an illegal enterprise with regulation and enforcement and police getting involved. Like how is that a good
but
idea?
you're not. I don't think this. I think my mind is really locked on this opinion. Like I'm very convinced, and it is hurting my feelings that I'm not able to explain this opinion to you because what I'm trying to do is to get us to a point where we can actually trust that. So where we can actually trust that, especially in the web industry. Right now, everything is possible. Like literally, like you don't even know if you're on a secure website or not. You don't know what is happening with your information. You don't know what is going on with the
Yeah.
cookie that you're accepting.
Don't
You don't really know anything. You just
don't be so cavalier with your information, you know.
listen. It's not everyone that can afford to build their own server and like
You
have
know
like
the great Latin expression caveat emptor, buyer beware. Buyer beware. They knew that in
like
ancient times. How is it any different today? With all of the regulation and this and that, you still constantly get attacked, hacked, scammed, all of these things. Like it's just anyway. I think that we're going in the
it may not be
weeds.
this.
We're not gonna resolve this debate
No,
today.
no.
I don't think that we should proceed because I'm starting to get aggravated and
No,
it's just not good.
no, I'm keeping this opinion, Vasily.
You can keep your opinion. You're free to do so.
Next year, I might be in a different environment and see a different way to solve it. But I'm convinced that we need it somehow to get to a point where knowledge is actually like we have a base level of expected knowledge.
Yes, yes. You want the guilds with their arcane secrets that only you have to know the secret handshake before they tell you how to do npm install React.
Well,
It's fine, it's I'm not saying I am conceptually against it. I'd rather not see that implemented, but you're free to believe that if you believe that. I'm not gonna I
I
mean I'm
don't
I'm
think it
trying
will
to
even
change
ever
your
happen.
mind. I'm clearly failing. And if I'm failing over 3 or 4 attempts, I feel like this is a waste of time and I should not be doing
Yeah,
that anymore.
yeah, like it's okay, but
Like
hopefully,
you
hopefully
okay,
maybe.
I'm gonna finish with this. I'm gonna say like
Mhm.
you cannot argue somebody out of a position that they did not argue themselves in. Like I have good arguments for why I think what I think, And so far, I haven't seen an argument to the contrary that convinces me. And I am trying to convince you of this other thing, but I think that that's a thankless task, trying to convince anybody of anything. You know,
No.
you expressed your opinion, I expressed my opinion, we clashed in our interpretation, and let's leave it at that.
Yeah, this is fine. Like, it's okay. Like, this is okay. It's just, I don't think, no, I don't think we should have everything open. Anybody and everybody can just copy. This is going to be, anyway,
In
we don't
order
have to
to
go back
fully
to that.
follow it, you have to make an inventory of all of the things that you use that have been built using the process that you want to abolish, and remove them from your life, to be completely honest to yourself in this. Because you can't have the cake and eat it too. You can't have the benefits of all of that and bash it at the same time. Like, if you can
Do you
do
know?
that and live a happy
Mhm.
life, all the power to you.
I have this last point. This last point I'm going to share with you, yeah? Earlier, you mentioned we were talking about lawyers
Mm-hmm.
and all. And you could, you said, you said, you said like you could have a lawyer who learned everything about the law, and because you know everything about the law, if you cannot, but you know legally this is not allowed. You can know everything about the law, but if you don't have um the certificate to do it, you're not permitted to license to do it. You're not a lawyer. You just know a lot about the law.
If you know everything
If
about the law, you know everything about the
it
law.
doesn't make you a lawyer, Vasily. You need you need a license.
You want a royal
It
patent, is what
you
you
need a
want.
license.
Yeah.
So if these other industries have licenses to protect the industry, to regulate the industry, in our own case, do you think our industry is not valuable enough for us to have a regulation as well? Do you not feel like it's valuable enough to
If
to
we
have a
are
regulation?
in such a state that without government freaking regulation we will not survive, good. Let it not survive. Like, you can't artificially prop up something. You can't just puppeteer a corpse around if it decided to die. Like, it's just not gonna happen. Just let it go. We're in a state right now where we're strong and moving forward, and there's a bright future ahead of us. If that moment
We
comes
believe
where
so.
we can't live without government regulation because it's some old decrepit corpse of an industry, just let it die. You know, it's like saying, oh, we have to mandate, I don't know, candle making to keep the industry up and ignore electricity. You know, we have to keep the industry up. Hey, like, everybody, we should just mandate everybody use candles, because like otherwise that industry is gonna die. It's like, yeah, it's gonna die. Just let it go. So I don't know. There's
I
probably a
mean,
mixed metaphor in there somewhere, but anyway.
anyway, you get my. I feel like at this point
Yeah, my answer
I've
is
been able.
no. No, I don't want any regulation.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm I'm
Me,
I'm a libertarian, and to some degree maybe even an anarchist. So no, no regulation. Go away.
well, I see where you stand, but for where I stand, I would like for us to have this regulation, at least to be able to certify people with certain base level of
I
knowledge.
think I
Because
think that we both are off the mark on different sides of the
probably,
spectrum. Like, if I were to honestly try to live a life with completely no regulation, that probably would not turn out too well. But if you were to try to live your life that is full of regulation, it's not going to work out too well either. So let's just stay somewhere in
yeah,
the middle where it's
yeah,
reasonable,
maybe,
and that's good
yeah,
enough for me.
maybe, yeah, maybe somewhere in the middle. Because I have to admit it too. Like universities these days don't always produce like the best
Yeah, they're,
engineers
they're
or like the
basically
best
shit.
software.
They're
Yeah,
basically a
so
waste of time.
if everybody is just like winging it, like the, there should be a gate somewhere to find quality. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
There should
that
be
that
somewhere.
gate is when you interview people. You're that gate. Go do a great job at it.
Well, I guess, but
You just you just want to diffuse the responsibility. You wouldn't say, "Oh, I don't want to make a decision about a candidate in case they're actually crap. I want to defer it to a university or some government agency somewhere because that makes my life easier." It's like, no. You go filter them out, and if you get the bad ones, you learn from the experience and you get better ones next time. don't just
At
say
least
we
like,
need a massive bureaucracy to make my life tiny bit easier in this aspect.
yeah, but at least like with regulation, you can also all the what you be
Okay, we're
interviewing
we're
for
going for the
could.
second loop of the same conversation now. So let's not do that.
You know what? It's okay. We leave it here today. We leave it here today. Hopefully, by the next time we bring it back up, like if we come back to this topic, hopefully we'll be able to agree. I have more agreement, but because I'm pretty sure we will have it again. But anyway, we leave it here today, basically.
Yeah, I'm
I
imposing a
think we.
moratorium on this particular topic. I don't want to talk about it again. Okay, 1 year, maybe in a year we can revisit it, but not not
Well,
not
hopefully,
anytime
but
sooner than that.
we didn't prepare to talk about it today.
Yeah, I
It
know.
just so happened.
Yeah.
And yeah, it probably can happen again. So, but we'll see. I hope like next time we talk about it, we'll be able to find, because like I think we got better today. At least we agree on each other's points today. But
Hmm.
next year we'll see.
I think we agreed that we each have our own points, but we never like I did not convince you and you did not convince me. So we stand exactly
Yeah,
where we were.
I
Just
will.
you do you, I'll do me, and it's all good.
Anyway,
Well,
yeah, I guess we
yeah.
can have it here today. Thank you, Vasily.
Thanks, Mo.
Yeah, yeah,
That
it's
extra burst of adrenaline was just what I needed to shake me up out of my post on call stupor. So
uh,
if any of you are still here watching this crazy rant, amazing. Thank you so much for your attention, and we'll see you in the
thank
next
you.
one. Bye bye.
Bye.